This is Silverbane here. So what I decided today was I was about to begin working on my server, just administrating it and adding some specific plugin configurations, and I figured, hey, why don't I create a quick live video on how I go about this, and maybe it'll help some other people out there. So what I did is this is a little pilot episode, and it's a test to see, hey, if you like it, subscribe to me on YouTube, press the like button, and put a comment in that you want more videos like this. I'm going to just go through the basics really quick, and then I'm going to go into editing the file that I was actually going to go and edit on my Minecraft server. So a few things that you'll need right off the bat is first, you will need a server. So first thing I would suggest doing is setting up a server. You either can run it from your desktop, or you can run it from a service provider. So basically what I can show you here is we have a wonderful setting up a Bukkit server at wiki.bukkit.org. And what this specifically is, it kind of goes in detail on how you can set up a server, anywhere on maybe a server that you own or on your own machine. So you'll basically go through the steps on here. I'm actually not going to go through the steps on this. If you want me to, I can create a separate video, so just put a comment in and I will show people how to do that. But this is kind of just a rundown on how you can kind of set up a Bukkit server on your home machine. So yeah, once again, go here, go to this website, that'll get you set up. Now, if you're like me and your home machine doesn't, you don't want to host your server on your home machine and you want to host it with a service provider, this is kind of nice because what it does is it kind of relinquishes the resources that you would maybe have on your home machine, so that you don't have to worry about playing Minecraft at the same time you're hosting a Minecraft. I actually tried that at first. Didn't work out for me because I had to keep my machine on all the time, and I don't have a spare machine. My house is small. So what I did is I looked up some service providers. Right now, I am using Multiplay. So if you go to the Multiplay website, which is right here, you'll see that this is one of the game server providers that you can choose from, and they have Minecraft listed on here, and it kind of goes into detail about how much it will cost and what you need to do, rent a server, how many players. It can be pretty expensive. It adds up, especially when you have to add RAM to it. So if you don't have a good following of people, this might not be your best choice. I also noticed that there are other server providers out there that are cheaper. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Look and at all the service providers, do a quick Google thing. So, if anyone, let's see, I might be having some issues here. So, this is a pilot episode. I actually have somebody watching live and kind of giving me feedback. So, you'll probably hear my Skype go off every once in a while. So as soon as hopefully he sees stuff show up on my desktop, I will be able to keep on going. But I'm going to just keep on going anyways. It's going to be a little bit of a mess here since it is live. But yeah, anyway, so this is one of the game service providers. It's not the cheapest one. There are others out there. And this is the one that I will be going through right now because it's the one that I run my server off of. So anyways, this is their website where you can purchase the server. Here is what it looks like when you're modifying parts of the server. So this is called ClanForge, and this is what the Multiplay allows, or provides to manage your server in a in a sense like I don't know how to explain it. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart already. But it's kind of like basically being able to manage it not through a console but through Windows on a browser. And it doesn't do everything you'd want. It's not like having direct access to the server, which sometimes I would rather have direct access to the server, like a console that I have available, like if I were to have that available on my PC, and I would have full control. But it still kind of, in a sense, gives you all the options that you would want, but just not the way you would want it. I'm not a big fan of when they do this, but I understand why they do it. So anyways, you can see that they give you a free a Mumble server as well whenever you get a Minecraft server. All right, so if you go into Multiplay Silver Sky here, you can click on Manage. This is what you would do to manage your server. And then you kind of come in, you would see the Clan Forge options, and they have their wonderful, how my server's doing, how much RAM it's taking. I actually had to up my max memory to 3 gigabytes for all the plugins that I'm running on my server in order to support it. But you can see right now no one's logged on, and it's only using a current of 585 megabytes. And this is actually very important when you go to any kind of service provider outside of your own computer. They'll cut your server off. If you hit the max, they'll shut your server down. And so a lot of times they don't even save it. They just shut it down. And it's terrible because it causes you to lose where you're at. So that's another downfalls of going to an external source. So and actually, putting my memory up to 3 gigabytes was pretty expensive to do that. So, but anyways, you see the buttons here on the server home page. You have start, stop, restart, and so on. But if I click on server again here, before I shut down my server and work on it, a lot of times I'll go into my console right here, and this would be just like if you had the console on your home PC if you were managing the server. So you can type commands directly in here. Save-all is a great command for basically saving everything in the world before shutting a server down. So if you can see, I put save-all in there, and if everything works correctly, it should pull back saying that it's saved. And if you can see, that's not the case. So that's kind of worrying me. So I'll try it one more time. Let's see if it says, there it goes. So save-all, forcing save complete. So we're good. Okay, so what that means now is I can stop the server. There's nobody on without, worrying about losing anything. So to hit the stop the server, I can either type a command in here again, or I can click the stop button, which is what I'm going to do right now. And that will stop the server. So now any kind of edits I make or anything like that, it's not going to affect the server running live, and it won't write over whatever I'm editing. So since no one's on and I don't plan on anybody be on, I'm going to actually stop the server. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll edit the files while the server is still running, and then when I go to save the files and move them over, I'll stop the server just for a moment, and then go in and save all the files, and then start the server up again, just so that the downtime isn't a long period. So, but that's how you stop the server, and that's how to start the server. I would go ahead and click start. And that'll start up your server again, specifically to Multiplay. And if you want to, start and stop the server on your home PC, let's say you're not using Multiplay, you would just type those commands directly in the console. So you would do save-all, stop, and then start. So, anyways, so once it's started up, it'll come back up, and I'm just gonna go ahead and start it. So it's running. All right, so another option then now is, let's say you've found a plugin. So a good place to look for plugins, of course, is Bukkit. So we can go ahead and just pull up the Bukkit website. And then here, anywhere you can go on here, you can see, you can get plugins, and you can see where you can download different plugins. So one plugin that I was actually, thinking of adding soon is called Mythic Mobs. So if I search Mythic Mobs, I should see the plugin right here. Yep. You click on the plugin, and once your server's all set up and you have everything up there, you can go ahead and download plugins. A lot of times there will be a download link here. It'll have explanation of what the plugin's in, and down here sometimes it'll have optional dependencies or required dependencies if you need to. Best thing to do, read through your plugins. Look at their manuals, look at their wikis, learn your plugins before you install them, because a lot of times what will happen is you'll find that the plugin interferes with another one, and if you don't know enough about it, you're going to cause a lot of problems for yourself. So the best thing to do is kind of learn the plugin before you install it. At least that's what I do. I've already read this one and I kind of know what it does. So I'm very tempted to add it very soon, but the only thing is the actual developer hasn't added one of the things I was hoping, which is being able to use command blocks to spawn mobs, or mythic mobs. So anyway, so you'd want to go ahead and click on the download button, and here you can see that what version it is, and it'll explain what the recent updates were, and a lot of times it'll tell you which game versions it works on. So, that also matters quite a bit, because if you're using a newer Craft Bukkit version than what this mod or plugin can provide for, you'll sometimes have a lot of bugs. And I can show you how you can tell whether or not it will have bugs or not. But most likely the game version, if the plugin developer has said that it works with that game version, you should be good to go. So anyways, when you're done with looking all through this, you hit the download button. That'll create a jar file to download, and there you go. So now you have the jar file, and then I'll show you how to modify and install that jar file. So the first thing you're going to want to do to modify your server is you're going to need an FTP solution or an FTP client. So here is the one that you can use, or anyone can, and it's a free FTP solution. You just go to this website and you go ahead and download the client, not the server, just the client, because that's what you're going to want. And that will create an FTP client you can use called FileZilla. Once you have that, you're going to want to get the FTP information. Oh, please only. Oh, whatever. I'm going to hit retry. So yeah, you can see this is already having some issues. I'm not sure why. Probably because I stopped it and started it too quickly. There it goes. But anyways, once you get that, you're going to want to go and get your FTP. So view FTP details is what you're going to want to do. I'm not going to go too much into that. I don't want to show my FTP details because I don't want to show people my password. So I won't go into that, but that's what you would want to do if you had a multiplay server. And then once you got that, you go ahead and connect, and you'll have a wonderful setup like this. And this is, of course, my FTP client. I'm connected on the right side, and on the left side, that's my desktop. So what I can do is I can go ahead and browse. So like this is what you'll probably see. You'll see Minecraft, and you'll see different things when you first connect to your server. Of course, if the server is on your computer, then it's just going to be in your computer, and instead of on the FTP site. So you wouldn't actually need an FTP site if it's on your machine. All right, so you go ahead and click on Minecraft and go into beta, and then just kind of go further in. So you see I went further in. And then you'll start seeing the world files and all that. What you're going to look specifically for is your plugins directory, and there it is. So you open up that, and here is all the plugins that I have installed on my server currently. So let's say I wanted to go ahead and install the one plugin I got. So what you're going to do is you're going to want to go ahead and move over to where I downloaded that, which should be under downloads, mythicmobs.jar, and you would move that file directly into here. That would install it. And then, of course, you would need to stop the server. Do the save-all. Stop the server. And start the server back up. And what that'll do is it'll install the Minecraft.jar plugin. Well, or not Minecraft.jar, the mythicmobs.jar plugin. Okay. So here we go, confirming the start. You can always hit restart too, but I like the stop and start buttons better because restart doesn't seem to always work. So, all right, so now that we've done that, what you're going to see is in the FileZilla, we have, if we refresh this specific page, you will see in the directory listings a Mythic Mobs folder once it's fully set up. Hold on. It'll show up once the server, sometimes it takes a second for the server to, there it is, Mythic Mobs folder. To start up. So anyways, so every single time you install a .jar plugin, or most of the times, it'll create within the plugins folder another folder which will then have all of the .yml files or configuration files. These are specifically used to modify the plugin. So if you look under Mythic Mobs, you can see that the plugin manual shows the configuration setup and what each thing does. So, this is just for config.yml. here's a few base configuration settings that can help you tailor it to your server. And this is really important. I mean, a lot of times you get plugins that you need to configure to fit your playstyle. So for my specific server, it's all about making Minecraft impossible, to make Minecraft a co-op experience and harder. So I take a lot of these plugins and I modify them to fit that style of play. That's really important if you want to have a successful server. I mean, you kind of have to find a niche and go for it. I mean, if you're just doing it on your own, you're just exploring, then it doesn't really matter. You just go and test the stuff, and you don't really have to configure them too much. But some of them require you to even like add the world that you're playing in before they even work. So some of them you'll install, and you're like, hey, this doesn't working. You know, what's going on here? Well, that's because you need to go in the configuration file. All right, so looking back at this configuration file, you can see that it's right here. And then, you know, if I edit this right now, so let's say I want to edit this. Well, if I edit it, there's two ways to edit it. I can either right click on it right here with FileZilla and hit View Edit. That'll open it up as a temporary file on my desktop. The one bad thing about that is if I save the file, it's going to want to save it right back to this FileZilla. And if I have my server running while that's happening, that's not a good thing because it won't save correctly. It usually will not work. Yes, sometimes you can do that, but a lot of times that is a bad way to do it. You don't want to do that because you'll find that you might lose all your changes and it might overwrite it when you restart the server or when you do a reload. And I do not ever use the Bukkit reload command. It's caused a lot of problems for me, and people all over say don't use that command. So I would strongly suggest whenever you make changes to restart your server instead of using the Bukkit reload command. All right. So anyway, so here we have all the different options for mythic mobs, and I'm actually going to go ahead and show you how you can open these .yml files in an editor that will work well for you. You don't want it. You can use Notepad, just plain old Notepad, but it honestly does not work very well. I would strongly suggest using Notepad++. So this is a website you can get Notepad++ from. It's a good .yml editor. And you would just go ahead and click on download. Once you install that, it's going to pull up and it's going to look like this. So here, let's see if I pull it up for you because I already have one open. I was actually working on a plugin earlier. So here you go. So this is what Notepad++ will look like once you have it installed. And so you can see I actually have a spells.yml open and I'm working on a different plugin. But let's say I wanted to work on the one plugin that we were just installing. So I would go ahead and for this one I'm just going to show it to you by viewing editing. But if you're going to do like work on this file and you want the server running, I mean the best thing to do would be to move it over first. So to download it, and then obviously you can see I don't want to download it to downloads because I actually have a config file from something else already there. So I'm just going to make a new folder, call it mythic. Actually, no, here. This is a great way to do it. Why don't I just move over the entire mythic mobs folder? There you go. There, now all the configuration files are on my computer instead. So I can open it up on my computer and don't have to worry about overwriting anything. So I can edit it, and as soon as I right click and edit it, it shows up in Notepad++. If that doesn't work for you, like let's say you right click on edit and it does not show up in Notepad++, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go in and you're going to want to edit that default open program in Windows. To do that, you go ahead and let's say I have this in my downloads folder. You go ahead and you go into your downloads folder. Like this, you go to where the .yml file is and you hit open with and you choose Notepad++ and then make sure you say always use a selected program for .yml files and then hit OK. And that'll be really nice because then whenever you edit that file, it'll just open it right up in Notepad++ and it keeps you well organized. So there you go. So here's the configuration.yml file, and you can see, it's got the general check for updates, debug level, and you can change these based off of what you read on the Mythic Mobs configuration file. That's why I always tell you to kind of read through things and have it open too. A lot of times I bookmark these websites and his manual and all the different manuals because every YML and every configuration is different. You can't just open it up and know what each thing does because it depends on how the person created it. that actually creates the .yml. So it's actually a long process, but you know what? You get better at it. It gets easier the more you do it. So anyways, that's how you install a plugin, how you edit a plugin, what you use to edit a plugin, and how you start and stop servers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of have this episode go into how to edit a specific plugin and how I go about doing it. I'm actually not going to do the Mythic Mobs example because I'm not ready to add that plugin to my server in a sense that actually activating it. Right now it doesn't do anything. I added it, but it won't actually run anything specifically because I haven't configured it. So, but I do have a plugin called Magic installed. And this is the spells.yml file for the Magic plugin. And I wanted to change all of the wands to actually use reagents instead of just being free to cast. So there's these wands that Magic allows to randomly spawn in the world within dungeons, the ones that randomly spawn already in the chests, and it puts like a random enchantment on each one of the wands. Well, I didn't really like the fact that they just cost mana and that they could be used constantly. I did not like that because it kind of felt like it would be cheap and people could just be using them crazy and it would just make the game way too easy if they found a good wand. So it's like, okay, well, what can I do to make it fit my server? So this is what when I talked about earlier, how to be a good server administrator, how to be create a good server is fit the playstyle. So mine's about Minecraft Impossible. So what I said is, okay, well, how can I change this really cool Magic plugin to fit my server? Because I kind of wanted to give people like another reason to explore, another reason to find these dungeons. So this is what I found, and I was like, hey, this is really cool. This would really fit my server well. So I said, okay, well, now I need to go in and modify that plugin to fit the server. So I'm going to add reagents. So I looked up on the Magic Bukkit. Magic. See if I can actually find the page really quick. There it is. Okay. So this is obviously the Dev Bukkit website for Magic. So you pull it up, and I usually pull this up and kind of have it handy. And I can go in and I can look at how do I edit your your file. So there's creating, he's got all these different pages. So server using Magic, future ideas, creating custom map images, and then Magic website and plugin integration. You also have, I believe, see here, yeah, I think he also has some other stuff. I'm looking for it though. He has, I believe, another website besides just this Magic website that has more information on how the configuration file works. But anyway, so here's his page. Here's his website, which it's not completely developed. So some of the plugin developers are better at documentation than others. So it can be very difficult when it comes to that. But here he's got this nice little website that kind of gives you an overview of how his plugin works and what it's all about. And then here's his list of spells and what they all do. Now this is what I want. This is something that I want open because I want to figure out how strong these spells are and then put reagents and what they do and put reagents based on that. So I'll keep this open, and here I'm gonna open this in a new tab, and then I'll go back on this and go back to the Dev Bukkit website. But before I can even do that, I need to learn and understand his plugin. I actually have already done this, so but you can see that it can be hard to find some of the stuff. So for all their customization or admin commands, please see admin instructions. There we go. So here we go. So here is his admin instructions on what you can do to modify his plugin. Here's all the different commands. Here's the utility commands. Here's the customizing spells and how it works. And that's what I want to work on, which is customizing spells. So you can see that Magic's configurable system and so on, and it kind of goes into detail about what you can do and what spells are for. So what I did is, I read all this already. And once I read this, I went into FileZilla and I found, okay, well, my FTP client, and I go ahead and I go to Magic, and once it's installed, all this stuff showed up. And you can see there's a spells.yml and all this information, but there's also defaults this is how he does it, which is different than a lot of plugins. He actually has a default configuration file that will run no matter what. So this file right here will run no matter what. And in that file, if you look, I have actually a split view currently on my Notepad++. But you can see on my left side, I opened up spells.yml, and on my right side, I opened up spells default.yml. A lot of YML files will have a lot of explanation of what they do within the file itself as comments. So you can read up on this and it'll explain it. In this specific example, what he is basically saying is that anything that you add to spells.yml will kind of modify the default spells YML. So if I add any little small thing, so if I add like cost, for example, for this light one here, it'll actually modify the cost on the default light spell. So I don't have to add like the class, the category, and the icon. I just have to modify what I want. It's actually kind of nice because it keeps your configured file a little bit more organized from the default file. Since this is such an involved plugin, that's what he did to make it so that it's easier for people. So he said to add reagents, you just have to specify the material name and then a colon, the reagent amount. So I have an example down here of how I did that. So here you can see for fireballs, I was just testing it and I added cost of experience, and then I said, oh, a reagent of 5 rotten flesh. So whenever they use a fireball wand whenever they use a wand with the fireball spell connected to it, it'll require 5 rotten flesh to cast that spell, and then so on. And then you can add more than just rotten flesh. So I could make a new line and I could say gunpowder 1. Okay, so now it's going to be 5 rotten flesh and 1 gunpowder. Few things about .yml files. If you don't already know, read up on what .yml files are, but it is extremely important to make sure that you do not use tabs and that they're all spaces. Another very important thing is that you do your indents correctly. Every little space counts in .yml files. So everything needs to be organized perfectly. If not, the plugin will probably fail, and your plugin won't work when you start up the server. So here's a way to actually configure your Notepad++ to make sure that when you do a return line, it puts in spaces rather than tabs. You actually go into settings. I think it's preferences, and then you click on delimiter. Nope, not delimiter. Tab settings. And then you just see where it says default, tab size 2, replace by space. That needs to be checked. If that's not checked, then it's not going to work. It's going to be tabs, and it's going to make every single one of your configuration files fail. So that's extremely important to do, unless you want to hit spacebar a ton of times when you're editing your files. So all right, so going back into this, so I added gunpowder and I put it to 1. If I hit the save button right now, it's going to actually say to my FTP client, because I kind of opened this as a temporary file, which I probably shouldn't have done because I've had it open for quite a while now. So it's kind of hit or miss whether you want to edit it directly from the FTP client or if you want to download it first. I would strongly suggest to download it first, but I've been kind of lazy lately, which is a bad programming habit. All right, so anyway, so here you go. You have gunpowder 1 and you have rotten flesh 5. So if I hit save right now, what you're going to see is it's going to pull up on my FTP client to save it. But I'm not going to do that because I have my server running and it would just probably overwrite and it wouldn't work right. So I don't want to do that. So before I save this file and add that gunpowder, I want to go ahead and stop the server. So I'm going to do the save-all. You get kind of used to this. Save complete, hit stop. Once the server is stopped, you go back to your Notepad++. Hit the save button on the spells.yml. Pull it up on this right here. And Oh, that's interesting. See, look at this. So that spells.yml, because I had it open earlier, I think it actually saved to my desktop. So there's actually, it's not going to pull up, the edit directly. So here's an example of me editing it directly. View edit. Keep this file in editor, doesn't exist anymore. So no. So I removed the other spells.yml, and so that's a great example why you don't want to keep it, because it's somewhere in my temporary files, that last file I saved.